Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we are talking about episode 3 of Mission Yozakura Family. Today's mission finds us watching Taiyo actually get ready to settle in to the Yozakura family's home because his home got blown up in the last episode, and basically we see a relatively normal guy thrown into a literally shitty situation because in order to function inside of this house and to become stronger in order to protect Matsumi, he is going to need to go through some training. But before he can get to the actual training at large, the girl with the pigtails, I think her name is Futaba, tells him that he is going to need to survive inside of the house for a month before he'll actually be ready to move on to that stage. And this episode is all about watching him go through that struggle. Basically, this is a training montage episode, and it was super funny, but it was also really heartfelt because you could really tell that Taiyo is putting everything that he has into trying to be the best that he can at this because he really wants to be able to do a great job at taking care of Matsumi. And we see very quickly, because of a flashback that happens in the episode, that that's not anything new for him. He has been like that for quite a while, and actually it was an interaction with him and her where he did come in and strive to help protect her in a situation where there were bullies trying to cut out the white streak from her hair, that he is no stranger to doing things that are to his detriment in order to help her. As an example of that, in this situation I'm describing, he actually takes the scissors they're going to use to try and cut out her hair and starts cutting out his own hair instead, which freaks them out because they probably figure that he and Matsumi are going to make it look like they did this to him, and they run the hell away. But the point of this, of course, is that the resolve that Taiyo actually has to do this and to look after Matsumi is not something that just came on overnight, and the bond that these two have seems much deeper than one would initially assume, especially given their ages. Now, I do wonder personally why it is that we haven't seen some form of an arranged marriage or organized bonding and grouping between the people in this family with other spy families. Maybe it's because they're too worried about the possibility of inbreeding, or maybe it's because they just don't trust each other, because it seems like these people are under constant threat of being poisoned, being attacked, having people betray them, people they work with in the past turning around and doing stuff. So that might be it. And then, as I said, it might also just be that they want to make sure that they include fresh genetics, which might mean bringing in people from the outside, sort of akin to Harry Potter and how some wizards marry muggles, that kind of deal. But it is fascinating to see this high school kid get yoinked into this basically alternate reality within the world that he lives in. One of the best things about this overall training montage type thing that they have going on is the fact that it is actually so freaking funny. Because, I mean, it isn't merely that there is this house and it is dangerous, but it's almost like the house is akin to something like Casita from Encanto, or it's like if Kevin McAllister designed an advanced house to get rid of burglars, or if the Addams Family had a hand in doing things. Like, it was hilarious watching some of the stuff that went down here, because we had this situation that I talked about with the food, where the food itself, if you consume it, is poisonous, only to a small degree though, not enough to actually kill anyone or anything like that, but enough to make it so you super duper have to go to the bathroom. Kind of like how the man in black in The Princess Bride talks about taking some kind of poison and being able to build a tolerance to it, and then he's able to beat Vicini. Much likewise, Taiyo is eventually going to build up tolerance to the stuff that these people are putting in the food. One of my favorite moments with this particular situation was actually where he actually asks Matsumi to pass the milk, and it's crazy because the food that Matsumi eats isn't actually poisoned, and all the traps do not affect her because she isn't actually counted as a combatant within the Yozakura family because she doesn't have any special abilities and that isn't her role. But she passes him the milk, and the milk she passes him somehow ends up being poisoned and is actually what makes him have to run to the bathroom. Now, having to run to the bathroom because your food that you're eating at this house where you're a guest is poisoned is bad enough to begin with, but that's not even the worst part, my guys. The bathroom that he runs to and needs to use is actually like locked down with some kind of a trap mechanism that needs to be hacked in order for you to get in. And of course, initially he has a hell of a time learning how to do this. Actually, the whole episode is about a culminating fact where he ends up eventually being able to unlock the bathroom. That is the big thing. And he has to get help from other people to open it and stuff initially. And there was one sequence with Kyochoro where he was actually laughing his ass off because Taiyo could not do this. Because of course he's going to take a bit of perverse satisfaction in that because that's just who he is. Now, to be fair, we don't actually see a lot of Kyochoro. We actually get a lot more focus on the other siblings this go around, which was probably really needed, and it was really cool to get to see certain characters come into their own, to get to see Shinzo giving Taiyo training with guns, where Taiyo is actually learning to use a handgun in order to be able to control and turn on and move the channels on the TV. Yes, you have to shoot a gun to use their TV. And the great thing about the gun sequence, one thing I really liked from just a logic standpoint, is that they don't make it look like a cartoon gun. What they do is they actually make it so that when the recoil situation you would have if you don't handle a handgun properly happens, Taiyo actually gets knocked on his ass. Which was great because, I mean, that's something we normally don't see. And this kind of struggle is something we normally don't see characters go through with regard to that kind of thing. The reason Taiyo is going through all this hell is actually because when he's talking to Futaba, that he has this agreement with her that if he can do this for a month, that she will train him in full. And we get to see him go through 3 weeks of this. And what we eventually end up seeing, though, is that it breaks him down. But it doesn't break him down in the way that she expected. She figured that he would give up and that he would go back to a slower pace and that he would not try to really concern himself with this anymore. But what ends up happening is that instead, his body ends up starting to break down. And by the end of the episode, what we end up seeing is that Taiyo actually has been using this like fake skin that he's been getting from one of the siblings to be able to hide the fact that it's hurting him as much as it is. And that was absolutely wild, but it really shows the kind of determination that he has. Another thing I wanted to point out from a writing and thematics point of view is the fact that the house and the attack of the house on Taiyo is actually a really good allegory for what's going on in his actual personal life. Because, I mean, he lost his parents and his sibling. He then lost his home because of the explosion. He's now moved in with Matsumi to what is supposed to hypothetically be his new home and his new future. But even here and now, he is dealing with inadequacy. He is struggling. He is being injured and he's being torn apart because finding that sense of home and belonging and connection again is at the root of everything that there really is about Taiyo's character. And to see that physically manifested in the way that they do his training arc is really cool. Overall, I super enjoyed the episode. One other thing I thought was cute in passing was the opening sequence where he goes to get off of the bed and he ends up accidentally stepping on Goliath the dog, and the dog is like "Rrrr," and it just keeps growling at him throughout the entire episode. That was funny. But I super enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really fun. It doesn't leave a tremendous amount for discussion, but it does do some very important things that we needed to have done for this story to progress, because we needed to find some way to be shown that Taiyo is advancing and improving, and that Taiyo has had some kind of adequate amount of at least initial training before we could really get to see him take on more direct threats going forward, because it wouldn't have had as much credibility if they hadn't done that. So I think they did a really great job at finding a way to do that, to make it funny, since this show is at least in part a comedy, and to actually have it be heartfelt in the way that it works thematically. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys thought of this episode, so feel free to leave a comment and let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye!